It's 3 a.m. and you're in a helium headspace. It's also Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. Harlan County, USA premiered today in 1976, directed by Barbara Kopple. The film was a documentary and featured Kentucky coal miners who went on strike when their company refused to sign their contract. One of those coal miners was Holly Wells Jr., who said, "That was when I learned my first real political lesson about what happens when you take a position against the coal operators, against the capitalists. I found out that the union officials were working with the coal companies. I also found out that the Catholic hierarchy was working with the coal companies. Here was a combination of the whole thing, you see. You had to bump against the whole combination of them." Born today in 1943 in the Bronx, Penny Marshall grew up with a sharp wit and no illusions about glamour. She began as Laverne on TV, all brassy charm and Brooklyn rhythm, before slipping behind the camera and proving that heart and humor could share the same frame. Big made her the first woman to direct a $100 million hit. Awakenings showed her empathy without slipping into sentimentality. A League of Their Own turned a forgotten women's baseball league into a timeless reminder that ambition and grace can coexist. Everyone adored working with Penny Marshall, and if they didn't, it's only because they hadn't yet. Penny Marshall once said, "I have a strange combination of fearlessness and massive insecurity." Born 2,095 years ago today, Virgil rose from Mantova's farm country to become Rome's national poet, shaping the empire's self-story with the Eclogues, the Georgics, and above all the Aeneid, a state-sponsored epic that honors duty and fate while quietly reckoning with exile, loss, and the cost of conquest. Following the refugee Aeneas from the ruins of Troy through Dido's Carthage and the underworld to Italy, he forged a myth that gave Augustus a past and Romans a purpose, then died in 19 BCE after asking, unsuccessfully, that the unfinished manuscript be burned, leaving a masterpiece whose doubts make its confidence credible. In the Aeneid, he wrote, "Whatever it is, I fear the Greeks, even when they bear gifts." Mario Puzo was born today in 1920 in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of New York City, where poverty, crime, and the immigrant grind shaped his view of America's promises and hypocrisies. The son of Italian immigrants, he grew up watching people struggle for dignity amid hunger and humiliation. For decades, Puzo was a modestly paid writer, producing pulp stories and struggling to support a family. Then, in his 40s, nearly broke and out of options, he turned to the world he knew best, the Italian-American underworld, and wrote The Godfather. Puzo's rise was the kind of hard-won ascent that exposes how little separates failure from fortune in America. Hollywood came calling, and with Francis Ford Coppola, he helped craft the Godfather films, timeless studies of power, loyalty, and corruption. In The Godfather, Mario Puzo opined, "A lawyer with his briefcase can steal more than 100 men with guns." Born today in 1814 in Moscow, Mikhail Lermontov was Russia's great heir to Romanticism after Pushkin's death, a poet and novelist whose brief life burned with intensity and rebellion. His masterpiece, A Hero of Our Time, broke ground by presenting a psychologically fractured protagonist, Pechorin, not as a hero, but as a mirror of a cynical age. Lermontov saw clearly the contradiction of his generation, the yearning for meaning in a world that rewarded calculation. Exiled twice for his sharp tongue and his contempt for authority, he died in a duel at only 26, ironically the same fate as Pushkin. His work remains haunting not for its patriotism or melancholy alone, but for its precise diagnosis of a restless soul in a rigid society. In A Hero of Our Time, he wrote, "I was ready to love the whole world, but no one understood me, and I learned to hate." Today in 1844, Friedrich Nietzsche was born in Aachen, a mind bent on self-mastery that treated thinking as a drill regimen. Short, hard aphorisms, strict routines, and a lifelong campaign to command the body that kept betraying him. He preached discipline, solitude, and the transvaluation of values, but in Turin, on January 3, 1889, coming upon a horse being beaten by its owner, he reportedly rushed to embrace its neck and broke down weeping. For the next 11 years, after brief hospitalization in Jena, he lived under the care of first his mother in Naumburg, then with his sister in Weimar. His lucidity was gone, his books were past him. The philosopher of control finished with none after seeing his system of control up close one too many times. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote that what does not kill me makes me stronger. He also wrote, in individuals, insanity is rare. And whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster. The abyss also gazes into you. Born today in 1981 in Oakland, California, Keyshia Cole's story is one of raw resilience turned rhythmic. Raised in and out of foster care, she fought through instability and the noise of her surroundings to find her voice. By the time her debut album The Way It Is dropped in 2005, her confessional blend of pain and pride made her a new kind of R&B truth-teller. Cole's songs weren't polished fantasies, they were weathered diaries with hooks. She stood in the tradition of soul singers who turned survival into melody, but she did it with early 2000s grit. Her rise from Oakland's foster system to the top of the charts proved that honesty itself could sell millions, not just polish over forgotten dreams. She has sold over 15 million albums. Keyshia Cole once said, "Music saved me before anyone even knew my name." Here's a poem to the workers of yesterday and today. It's The Lowly Brickmaker by Sarah Norcliffe Cleghorn. I saw the brickmaker kneeling and stamping the clay in his mold. The brickmaker's face was weary, his hands were grimy and old. And I thought, as I watched him working, of all the wonderful things that men who labor with patience have builded for queens and kings. He never will live in a palace, or sit at a rich man's feast, but the house of the proud and haughty he builds with his toil, at least. And I thought of the patient people who live and labor and die, that others may dwell in splendor and never question why. And those are some of the things we humans have done over the years. Do good work, smile more, and please follow our work.